Cheap and easy girders, you gotta be kidding me. I understand if you want to stop watching based purely on that pun. I'm Chris from Good Enough Scenery, and dad jokes ahoy. Sorry about that. So, unbelievably, these are actually made out of lolly sticks. So, to start off with, you just need to snip the ends off some lolly sticks to make them nice and straight. I do this with a pair of pliers, and I try to make sure that the ends are nice and smooth rather than kind of all splintered, because steel doesn't splinter, and these are supposed to be kind of I-beams or RSJs or whatever you want to call them. And they're made up of 3 lolly sticks each, so cutting 3 lolly sticks to roughly the same size, which you can do simply by just marking them out and then snipping them with a pair of pliers. Quick reminder to subscribe to the channel if this is the sort of content you want, because this is the first part in the industrial series of stuff to make for your wargaming board. Now, next up, glue it together. Now, best thing to use is a hot glue gun, a nice hot glue gun, so you can do a nice gentle kind of seam down one edge. It doesn't matter if you put a bit too much on, because as you'll see later on, if some does kind of squidge over the edge, it does look a little bit like a weld, which is how these kind of are joined together anyway, I believe. So they're welded, or stuff is welded, and it looks like weld rather than hot glue once it's painted. So once you've done one, now you can do the top of the upright again and just put it on top again. So you're just forming a very deep eye with these 3 different lolly sticks, and it ends up looking exactly like that. Now I'm doing 3 of these because the way in which they're constructed is exactly the same, but I'm going to do 3 different choices of how you paint them depending on the stuff that you have available. And I think all of them look pretty good, and it's up to you to decide what's best. But regardless of which option you decide you want to go for, it starts with them being base coated in black. So this is just cheap black poster paint or acrylic paint. It isn't your kind of expensive Games Workshop Citadel stuff or anything like that. It's just £1 for a massive bottle type of paint, and it leaves them looking like this. So next up is the foundation colour, or whatever it is after a base, something or other. But the first one I did in lead belcher, so just a quick scoot over with that. It's what I like about painting these is that if you miss gaps, it's actually a good thing. So you want to go over it quickly, and you see there, kind of caught in the light for a second, where the glue got painted and it looks like a kind of a weld. So the first one I did in lead belcher. Next one I think is this is Screaming Bell, which I think I bought and have not ever used until this, but I kind of quite like the colour that came up. And then finally got some dry Necron powder. So different ways of putting on, or different metallics going on top of the black base, and you could stop at that point. That is certainly good enough scenery, but we can go better than that. You stop at the point where you want to with good enough scenery. So with the Screaming Bell one, I'm going to do like a kind of very, very cheap rust effect. So that's super glue I just put on there. So just a few drops in random places, and then scrape it with something else so it spreads out completely randomly. And all I'm doing then is just sprinkling on some very fine basing sand, and this is the idea of this is it kind of creates an uneven surface and kind of like a rusty type effect. The only kind of inaccuracy, I guess, is the fact that this is adding to the metal, whereas rust would be corroding away, but sue me. So kind of a few patches on the top and then quite a bit on the sides, and yeah, it ends up looking like that. So that's what I did with the first one. The next one I did with Typhus Corrosion, which is probably my preferred method of doing it. So this is a paint which I've used on numerous things. There's a technical paint, so it's got some kind of texture to it. And yeah, just again, doesn't matter if you don't completely cover it. In fact, it's better if you don't. And then on the last one, I'm just painting it with a contrast paint. I believe I used Gorgrunter fur just because I like the name. So again, just kind of painting it on a little bit randomly, covering it mostly, but not worrying too much if you're missing out large gaps, because the whole point is it's supposed to be a little bit random. So I kind of say just turn your brain off for this. Now at this point the super glue will be dry, so just go over if you on the Screaming Bell one, going back over the sandy bits with the Gorgrunter fur as well. And this is what they look like afterwards. I mean, that's absolutely fine. You could say that is done. That's the first one. The next one is the Screaming Bell one. That looked like this. Again, you could say that that's finished. And finally, you've got the dry Necron powder one there. Now, the only thing to add on to it is some rust. Like, kind of, rust is like very orange, sometimes even white. So this is like some cheap Vallejo fire orange, and it's kind of just dry brushed over the sandy areas just to kind of really try and bring them out. That's a very viable option, probably the cheapest option again. And with the other two, I use something called Riser Rust. But for this one, just kind of dry brushing wherever the sand was applied, and then a few streaks in other places as well. Again, just trying to be as random as possible with it. Now with Riser Rust, that's again it's like the dry Necron powder, and it's a dry paint or dryish paint. I'm not the best at using it, but what you can do is you can put it in. You're supposed to really kind of get it off the brush, but here I had a bit too much on. But you can kind of brush it out, and this is basically them finished. I think I went over a couple of bits with the Gore Grunter fur just to kind of tone down the orange in places a little bit, but essentially that's them done. They're so simple, they're so cheap, they're so quick, and they end up looking like this. And I think they're fantastic. So if you enjoy this sort of content, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, leave any comments you've got below. Thanks for watching.